Hey, good morning, everyone. How are you all doing? Glad to see you here. Katie, I'm guessing that you're in at the office with it up on a screen. I do want to make sure everyone can hear me. Again, that chat box is on the left-hand side of the screen. If you can drop a chat in there so I know that my sound is working, that's really helpful. Good morning, Curtis. Curtis, I'm going to use your listings as an example today. Is that okay? Hey, Chris. It looks like Chris just joined us. I know that she's probably in an office as well with sound getting up for an entire office. Good morning, Katie. I want to make sure that everyone can hear me before we jump in. There's a lot of information today. I'm super excited to be sharing it with y'all. Hey, Chris, can you hear me at the office? Awesome. Chris is in Hesperia at that office. And it sounds like sound is working, so perfect. Just a few reminders as we go through things today. One, we are going to be talking about listings. We're going to go through how to manage your listings, what all the tools are available with your listings, and that side of it. If you have any questions as we go through this, I highly encourage you to ask. If you don't ask, you'll never know. And there's no such thing as a silly question. Chances are, if one of you has that question, several others of you also have that question on the phone or on the line, and we want to make sure that we're getting you your answers. So please feel free to ask your questions. The session is being recorded, and we will send you a copy of the recording afterwards. It's going to come out from the office. It's going to have the copy of the recording, the link to next week's session as a reminder, and then it also is going to have, pardon me, quick links to other shorter bits of training that we go through today. So please watch your email for that. It will get to you by the end of the day today. And without further ado, we're going to start working on listings. And Curtis has been kind enough to let me share his screen with y'all so you can see live listings and what happens. So we are, as we've talked about, pulling listings live from MLS. And as you all know, being in the business is more than keeping up with clients. It's also promoting and managing your listings when you've got them. And there are lots of tools available for you to do that. And there are really two ways that you can access your listings. You can either click on that quick link on your home screen. So if I click it, it opens up my main listing dashboard here. Or you can go to the listings tab on the left-hand side of the screen, and you're going to see a couple different things. You're going to see a listings dashboard. You're going to see also an open house dashboard available to you. I know right now your company is not going to be using the showing section, so we're just going to not talk about that today. And don't fret, there's more information there. If you want more, you can always find more information on our YouTube channel about that section. So once you're in your listings dashboard, you are only able to see your listings. So if you don't have any listings, when you go to this listings tab here, it's going to be blank. That's okay. You don't need to manage your listing because you don't have any listings yet. There's a quick glimpse. So you're going to see a thumbnail of the photo, what type of property it is, your ML number, as well as your list price. So this main dashboard is really just a quick glimpse of everything that's happening with your listing. If you go to the Actions button, you're going to see a couple things. One, you can edit your listing, you can view your listing, or there are some quick links to be social with your listing. So if I click View, it's going to open up that listing on my agent website. So I can see up here in the corner, I'm just going to move this, it's going to have my agent website up here. If I go back to that, I can also click on edit, or I can be social. So I can tweet, put on Facebook, Pinterest, LinkedIn, or view the website by clicking these buttons. And there's two different types of websites. One is a details site. It looks like this. It's got all the details about the listing. And there's also a showcase site. And the showcase site has a little bit more information It's got scrolling images at the top. A customer can choose to see all of the photos in a layout and then select a photo to see it enlarged. There's also a contact form that is sticky, so it stays with the listing all the way down, and there's several places on this page to capture leads. So there's a contact form, there's a home value form, there's information about the area, and there's information about the schools. There's also places where they can learn more about homes for sale on your website. So we've worked really hard to make that showcase site very attractive for capturing leads, as well as a really good source for your clients to see their listing displayed beautifully. Again, I got there by going to actions and then to showcase here. Any questions so far about how to get to your listings dashboard or anything that we've talked about underneath the Be Social or the view? If I want to share this on Facebook, I can just click on the Be Social. It's going to open up my Facebook page. It's going to show that home, and then I can choose if I'm showing it on a friend's timeline, if I'm sharing it in an event, if I'm sharing it in a group. That's a great question, Katie. So Katie asked, is Instagram an option for social? Not at this time. So Instagram right now does not let you just post a hyperlink, and all of these quick links are hyperlinks. So it's copying your details or your showcase page, and then it's pulling the imagery from that. Instagram, as some of us know, and I don't know if all of us know that, is a photo native app. So they want you to upload a photo and do that. Katie, at this time, Instagram is not coming as a social option until they change that hyperlink side of things, because we have no way to we'd have to download a photo to upload a photo, and you have to post to Instagram on your phone at this time and not via a hyperlink. So we have no way of doing that at this time, unfortunately. Good questions, though, and I wish the answer to that was yes. Most of the time, I feel like 95% of the time I get to say yes, and that 5% of the time that I have to say no is always not fun. Alrighty, so let's jump in and talk about how you can edit your listings and what tools are available underneath that edit button. Katie, did that answer your question? Does that make sense to you? And those are Instagram's rules. Yeah, no problem. So once and I'm going to scroll out a little bit just so this doesn't squish so much at the top. I've zoomed in so it's a little clearer for you. Once you open the listing page, you're going to see all of your information about your listing. So again, I can see those share options here at the top. I can see the MLS status. I can scroll down. If you have virtual media tours that you want to attach, or Matterport tours, or another tour you want to attach, you can attach up to 3 video tours here. And as you scroll down, you're going to see a place on the right that says images, and then you're going to see contact information. So you'll see your name as the listing agent, and you'll also see a spot to add a seller. So to add a seller, you have a couple options. You can start typing the seller's name, and it will pull from your CRM to add that seller. If your seller is not in your CRM tab, you can actually click this little person next to that, and it's going to ask you to add a first name and a last name, as well as a username and password for that seller, because what happens is once you add a seller to a listing, it creates a seller portal for them. So I'm going to go ahead and click save, and now my seller is attached to that section. Curtis, that's a great question. So Curtis asked, is there an app to access this on our phones? If not, are there plans for one? There is not an app to access this on your phone. I sent out in my first email the videos on how to attach it as a shortcut on your phone. And at this time, there's no plan to have it be an app, because there is so much in your IQ office. So there's so much you can do with messaging and managing your customer relations and managing your listings and managing your marketing materials. If we were to put that in an app, there's two things that would happen. One, we would have to limit the features. We'd have to scale down what it does. And two, if we push a code to fix because we're constantly releasing new features, then, Allison, I'm going to come to your question in just a second. Then we would have to require you to update your apps all the time. And unfortunately, we found that people are not necessarily super reliable when it comes to updating their apps. So this is mobilely based. Let me actually shrink it down and I'll show you. So if I shrink this down to the size of a mobile phone, I can actually see everything about this listing. I can see the MLS number, I can see the status, I can see my seller information, the location, all on a mobile phone as well. So it is mobilely enabled. It's built on mobile first, and then it's built and then it's scaled up into website. Allison, the shortcut was for IQ Office. Curtis, does that answer your question? Allison asked, was the shortcut for the IQ Office or for the website? The shortcut is for your IQ Office. We don't want you to have to constantly update an app, and we don't want you to lose feature and capabilities by having to scale down what the system does. Just got asked that on our Facebook group as well this week. Cool. So you can attach your seller. We're going to get into the things that you can do after you attach your seller here in just a moment. So I can continue to scroll down. I can see all the photos on the right-hand side. If I want to add additional photos here, so if there's, I think you have 72 photos in here. If you wanted to add additional photos or take photos out, you can do that. You also can easily drag and rearrange the photos. So if I said, hey, I want to go in and drag and drop all of these images and rearrange them, you can do that. It will be reflected on your website. You need to make sure that after you do that, you click this save button in order to have those changes saved. If you don't hit the save button on there, you will not save those changes. You can also see that we're pulling all the remarks from MLS, and there's an opportunity below that to change the description. So we all agree to play nice in the sandbox according to the MLS rules. And your MLS rules have very specific things that you can or cannot say. In that, if you wanted on your website to display something else, I know that the MLS locally that I'm a part of doesn't let you put builder names in the description for the home. But so if you wanted to go in and say Country Living at its finest, 2 homes on 1 large lot built by Travis Wade Custom Builders, you could change that here. Once you start to type in here, it's going to ask you to verify that this is no longer going to be updated by the MLS. Once you change this description, it will not overwrite from the MLS. Does that make sense to everybody? If it does, go ahead and type a yes in the chat box so that I know that I'm speaking a language that you're picking up. Awesome. Cool. So the last part on this details page that you can edit is a section called story. And what this story is once you add your seller, so when I added myself to the listing as the seller, I get a seller portal, and I can access that seller portal from either my agent's website or I can access it from the company website. And when I go to that website and I go to my portal to log in, as the customer, I will see my listing agent's information here. I also see a property story space here where I can go in as a seller and type my property story about why I loved living on this property and I was so grateful to have my in-laws live next door and remember my kids running back and forth and having sleepovers, and it's just this magical place, right? Once the seller types that story in here, it will automatically populate that story in here. Now, you as the agent get a notification saying, hey, Curtis, your seller, Kelsey, put in a property story. Awesome. Curtis says, that's great. I'm going to go in and read the story that they put in. And then when I'm ready and I know that it's following fair housing and equal housing and all of the rules that I have, I can activate that story on my seller's listing page. Now, there's a reason that it always defaults to inactive first. How many of you have had a seller who is not necessarily a politically correct human, who maybe has said something like, please don't bring children with their grubby hands into my house to show it because they're going to touch all my stuff and get it dirty, and I don't want you to show this to any families? Has anybody had a seller that said something outside of the box like that? Just so you know, in my mind, you're laughing to each other. And what we don't want to happen is to have a seller write something like that in their story and not give you, the agent, the chance to edit that into something that's more politically correct and shows the guidelines and follows the guidelines of fair housing and equal housing, so your sellers don't get you in hot water unintentionally. So you have to go in and approve that property story. But this is a great thing to increase the search engine optimization of your house as well, or of your listings as well, because it's telling the story of the home through the eyes of the seller. And it also goes really along with the Coldwell Banker side of what you're doing, about telling the story and leaving your mark and really helping people with their homes. Cool. So the next thing we're going to go through are just some tabs at the top of this listing so that you know what you have options to. On the left-hand side, there's these all open up different sections of your listing, and we're going to go through those. So details, maps, actions, attachments. On the right-hand side, you're going to see a few things that are also available. You can print or email a flyer directly from the listing. I can say print or email my flyer. It's going to show me all the flyers I have available to me. So there's all the just listed flyers in here. I can go in, I can say, hey, I want this just listed flyer blue, or I want a just listed luxury, or I want a on the market flyer. So there's several different kinds of flyers you can choose from within the system. Once you've chosen your flyer, I'm going to go back to just listed. And I can say, hey, here's this just listed flyer blue. If you were maybe doing something in global luxury and you wanted to use the black to match the new global luxury, so you could use that. You say select. It's going to automatically then put in all the information for your listing. So it's going to take a minute to process. For those of you that aren't watching the comment box, Chris says, please pick blue. And now I can see it's inserted all of my photos. I've got the price, I've got the address, I've got the details. It's inserting my agent information here on the bottom. If I want to go in and I want to change a photo, I say, okay, I like the front photo here, but I don't need 3 photos of the front of the house. I can click on a photo. I can actually go to the tab at the top that says property, and I can scroll through all the property photos until I find one that I want to add in here. So maybe I want to add one that shows, oh, this is a double, 2 homes on 1 lot. So let's go to the aerial. And I want to show the aerial of what that looks like. It's going to show you the proper cropped area that will fit that space the best. And then I can say, all right, I want to edit this photo. And let's actually go through And I want to show maybe the back patio. It's going to automatically insert that. I can go in, I can say, hey, I don't like my agent photo. I want to go in and change my agent photo, or I want to upload a new image here. And I can actually go in and say, hey, I'm going to add a file. I'm going to go in, I'm going to find my photos, and I'm going to upload a new picture. Okay, now I'm going to put my picture in there. So you can change your photo. You can go in, you can say, I don't want this, I don't need my phone number on there twice. I can delete one out. Okay, I don't want this there. I can delete it. And then I have the options at the top to either save in email, or save in print. So if I click save in print, you need to make sure your pop-up blocker is not on. So what will happen is, and I think mine is on. Nope, there it goes. Up here on the top of your page, you'll get a little page with an X on it. And it will say you're blocking the screen from opening. You need to allow pop-ups from this page. Here's my beautiful flyer. I also can email it out. So if I click save an email, it's going to open up a screen where I can start typing who I would like to email this to. Again, the same with your other messaging. If you click the plus person on the right-hand side of to, you could go in and you could say, hey, I want to send this to all of my buyers. Or I want to send this to specific contacts. Or I want to send this to specific agents in the office. Once you've added the people you want to add, or specific offices, so I could say, hey, I want to send this to Hesperia. Once I say that, I click finish. I haven't added anybody in here, and it's going to say, all right, you're ready. I click send, and it goes. If I just want to save this for later, I can click save. It's going to process and save. You can always access your saved flyers underneath marketing, my saved content, and we're going to go more through that marketing tab next week. Again, to get to make a flyer, I opened up my listing. I clicked print or email a flyer. And then I chose the layout that I liked. It automatically did the rest. Any questions there? If you don't have any questions, just type no in that chat box, then I know we're ready to go on to the next section. Cool. So the next thing at the top of the screen that you have access to is something that says open house. We are pulling your open houses directly from your MLS. But if you want to add an open house, maybe you don't want to put it in MLS, you want it to be on your website only, you can click on this open house button at the top of the screen. And you can also enter in who's holding it. So if it's your listing, so this is Curtis's listing, but Allison is holding it open, you can go through and you can say, all right, I need to find Allison Flat. She's holding it open this Saturday from 8 to 1. And then I'm going to add another date. Maybe we've got Denise holding it open, or Diane holding it open. Diane's holding it open on Friday from 3 till 7. And I can add all my open houses in at the same time. Once I click finish, it's going to show that those open houses are scheduled. It's also going to reflect that on my details page here, that I've got some open houses coming up. When I go to the website, it's going to show that there are open houses coming up on my website. It's going to show the dates and the times for people. There's also an open house sign-in page. I'm going to get to how you access that if you are not the listing agent in just a moment. If you are the listing agent, it's always going to show here at the top of the screen, open house sign-in. You can click on it and it will show your open house sign-in right here. If you are not the listing agent, bear with me. We're gonna dive into that in just a minute. Any questions about how to schedule open houses? Katie, I need to look at your feed to answer that question. So Katie asked, will the open houses push to other sites like Zillow? I need to look at how your feed's set up to answer that question. Let me get back to you today so that you can get the right information, because you're a Coldwell Banker company, I need to make sure I tell you the right thing. I believe the answer is yes. I'm 99% sure the answer is yes. Yeah, and Chris, I like I said, I'm 99% sure the answer is yes. All right, so map. This map section is a place where if for some reason you have a house that is mapped incorrectly, you can change the pinpoint of the map. Again, after you move the map, you do have to click the save at the top of the screen to save your changes. There's also an attachments tab. So underneath the attachments, if you have a property condition report or a plot map or a survey or something like that that you want to be made public on the listing website, you can upload a file here and it will display on the website. There'll be a little place in here that says attachments. If it is a file you do not want to be public, do not attach it to the listing. I'm going to say that one more time. On your listing, when you go to the attachments tab and upload a file, these are public documents for consumers to access. Cool? That makes sense? If you don't want it to be public, don't upload it here. Again, open house tab shows your open houses that are upcoming. I'm going to skip the showings tab because y'all aren't using the showings tab at this point. The reports. This is where things get super exciting for me. Once you attach your seller, not only do they get a seller portal where they can log in and add a story, but they also get an option to have seller reports automatically sent to them. So when you go to this reports tab, you can see that you can actually go in and set the competition. So I can go in and I can say, okay, the price of this one is $449.9. All right, I'm going to set my competition. We're going to look at everything between $450. No, we're not. We're going to go to $420, and we're going to go up to $470. It needs to be a minimum of 2,700 square feet. It needs to have 4 bedrooms. It needs to have 3 bathrooms. It needs to have at least 1.25 acres. You can also choose by community name or zip code. So I can go in and I can say, hey, I need to choose by community. It's pulling your communities from your MLS. You can select as many of these as you would like. You do that by just checking the boxes. If you want to uncheck a community, you uncheck the boxes and you click OK. Same with zip codes. If you say, hey, I would actually like to filter this by zip code, and then you can select your zip codes on the right-hand side. I'm going to have to refresh my screen for that to come back up. You also could do map. So if you do the map, you're going to scroll in or out into an area. On the right-hand side, underneath options and report features, are where you choose what you want it to send. So I can go in and I can say, hey, I want this to send every week. I want it to show my listing details. I want it to show the web activity. I want it to include the competition and the competitive listings. I also want to know how people are getting to the listing. Once I check all those boxes, I have a few options at the top. I can view my report here. If I click view, it's going to open up a preview of my report, always showing the listing agent at the top. And it's showing, hey, it's had this many views on the website. Referrals are this many referrals of all time. This is what's happened in overview. In the last week, it's shown up in this many search results, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, and all time. And then the competition report. What are all the listings that fall within the parameters that I selected? Now, I also can choose to just manually send this. So I'm going to close out of this screen quick. So I can say, hey, I want to manually send this. Click send. It's going to pop open that screen. It's going to send. Here it is. I'm going to send it to, who do I want to send it to? The listing agent, or I can send it to the listing agent and a contact by typing their name. Once I do that, I click send and it goes. Clicking too fast. I also can just save it, and what that means is the next send for this is going to be next Tuesday, 12/4, and it's going to send to my seller. If I want to copy more people than just my seller, say I want to copy my seller and there's a lender that's involved with the property or that's helping you do marketing or something like that, you could add additional CCs to that email just by typing in their email address here. So I could say, hey, this is Chris at cbhomesource.com. Yep, you can. So if you want to be auto-copied on this every time, you would just put your email in that CC. Once you click save, it's set to go. And now it's going to send out every week at that time. So, any questions about anything that's happening on your details page or the attachments with reporting for your listing? Any questions so far? Cool. The last thing I want to talk about for your listing edit screen, before we go into how do you go and promote your open house and what options do I have, is this Actions tab. So at the top of your screen, there is an Actions tab. And this Actions tab works very similarly to the Actions Plan tab for your clients, except for your actions here are really meant for marketing your listing. What do you want to apply to your listing so that you can properly market that? You can add individual actions by clicking the plus new in the upper right hand corner, and you could say, hey, I need to maybe I need to do a set up my seller reports. I'm just going to manually do that. I'm going to say add myself to seller reports, and I want to make sure that I set up those seller reports maybe a week after it's listed so that it can gain some traction and some actual website traffic before I send that. And I can either assign it to myself, the listing agent, or if I have a co-listing agent, I can attach it to the co-listing agent. There's also a section that says, is this visible to the seller? And that means when the seller logs into their portal, do you want them to be able to see your actions in their portal, yes or no? Once you add that, you click save, and it's going to add that. Now, if it is something you've already done, so we just added the seller reports, you can do that. So you can add individual actions based on dates. You also can go in and you can add an entire action plan. So if I go in and I push add, there is an an action plan that defaults in the system, add the realtor.com website, add the seller action. You could click yes and click save. Chris just said, hey, yep, we are working on an action plan for agents to use as well. Or you can create your own as well. Is there a way to link the property website to the MLS or Zillow or realtor.com, etc.? I don't know the answer to that, Curtis. If your MLS has a place for the listing website, then yes, you could take the actual listing details page and you could copy and paste this address in there. I think that's what you're asking. Is that what you're asking? Okay, perfect. So his question was there a way to add a link to the property website to the MLS or Zillow or realtor.com? You can always open up that property website or the single listing website, and you could copy and paste this link into those spaces. Yeah, Chris brings up a good point. Make sure you're following all the rules for MLS so that you don't get yourself in hot water with the MLS. What's really nice is once you add this plan, anything that you've already done is going to auto-complete for you. You can see all of your listing actions under your to-do gauge. You know it has to do with a listing because it has this little bed next to it instead of a person. So you'll notice on the left-hand side of your screen, your customer relations tab has people and your listings has the person with the bed. Same thing happens here on the right-hand side of your screen. Setup showing instructions. Okay, I'm in a view. It's going to actually take me into the listing so I can set up my showing instructions. Or I can say, hey, this is done. And you can just type in what those instructions are here. Maybe the notes are no showings with shoes or whatever they are. Complete. It will complete that task. Now, back in the listing. If I want to go in and when I add an action plan, I don't like something that's added. Okay, I don't want to schedule a sign install. I can actually go to the actions and I can delete that. If I decide I don't want this action plan, I can delete this action plan by clicking the delete on the right-hand side, and it will take off all actions that are not complete. Anything that you've done is going to show as completed on here. If you don't want it to show here anymore, you can go in and you can manually delete those completed actions. This is a great tool for mapping your marketing plan that you've promised to your seller and having a digital list to remind you of what you have going on. You can make your own action plans. We're going through that next week. Underneath Tools and Preferences, there's a section called My Action Plans, where you can create your own custom action plans. You also can set an action plan to automatically attach to a listing that is just listed or just reduced. To do that, you're going to go up into your name on the right-hand side of the screen. You go to your profile, and you go to your preferences. About halfway down that screen, there's a default action plan section. And you can add a just listed action plan or a just reduced action plan. So I can go in, I can say, hey, for every new listing that I get, I want my new listing action plan to automatically apply as soon as it pulls into my IQ office. Don't forget to click the Save button. And now any new listing that I get is going to automatically have that new listing action plan attached. If I ever decide I don't want to have that attached, I'm going to go back up to my name in the upper right-hand corner, to Profile, and then to Preferences. And I'm going to scroll halfway down to the action plans, and I'm going to click the X, and it's going to clear that action plan out, and I'll click Save. So again, we were under listings, we were talking about action plans, we attached an action plan, then we talked about where in our profile we could go to have an action plan automatically attached. Any questions there? Are you just thoroughly overwhelmed with the amount of information? Yep, you can, Allison. Perfect. So Allison asked, can we turn off the email and text message reminders for the action plan? Yes, Allison, you can. I'll show you how to do that. Chris asked, is there already a default new action plan? Is there already a default new listing action plan in the system? Yes, there is a default new listing action plan in the system that is provided that you can start using today if you would like. Allison, to change your preferences on notification, you're going to go to your name in the upper right-hand corner, into your profile, and into preferences. And then underneath the notifications, you can see there's a section that says new tasks, notify of new tasks due by email or by text. You would just change those settings. Awesome. The last thing that I want to talk about today is this open house section when you click on listings and go to open house. So if Allison is sitting an open house for Curtis, she can't go into her listings tab and see any listings here because it's not her listing. She can, however, get to the open house page. She's going to go to listings. She's going to go to open houses. And then it's going to show all the company open houses that are coming. To get to her open house sign-in page, she's going to click on the actions next to this, and then she can go to a sign-in page here. She can also print a flyer. So if you are sitting an open house open for someone else, you can go in and you can say, all right, I need to print a flyer. It's going to pull up all your open house flyers. You're going to click select. It's going to enter in all of the information about the open house. And it will insert your information here. Because I'm logged in as Curtis, it's inserting Curtis's information. If I was logged in as Allison, it would put Allison's information here. When you log in as yourself, so when Chris logs in, if she goes and creates a flyer, it's going to put Chris's information here. Again, you can save and print that, save and email that, or just save that. You also can access that sign-in page by going to Actions, Sign-in Page. What will happen is, at the bottom of the screen where it says Hosted By, it will always show whoever opened that page. So I'm actually going to stop acting as Curtis really quickly. And I'm going to go into Listings Open Houses to show you what this looks like. And I'm going to say, I want to see the sign-in page. And now it's showing, hey, you're logged in as a company user. It's hosted by Coldwell Banker Homesource. A client can go in, they can enter their name, their email address, their phone number. What's really cool about this, well, there's a few things. One, the leads for this go to the agent who is hosting the open house. So if you're hosting the open house and you have this page up, it's going to send the leads to you. Also, you no longer have to have a piece of paper add an open house for everybody to see who's been there. So you can digitally capture people and not have them expose all their information to everyone. The last thing is the consumer can immediately have this property texted or emailed to them, and this page automatically times out after about 30 seconds, or they can click finish and it takes you right back to that screen. I want to show you what that text looks like. So just bear with me quick while I open up my text messages and I move my text message screen over. So I can go in, I can say, here's the text. It says, hey Kelsey, thanks for stopping by the open house today. Click here to view the details of the property. I click here and it's automatically going to open up the page, the company page, and show the information about the house. If I were not in as a company user, it would open up the page on the agent who is hosting the open house. Does that make sense? Yeah, so Allison asked a really good question. Is there a specific spot the open house leads go to so you aren't searching through the CRM to find them? Allison, they're going to go into your contacts and leads. You're going to get a text message notification, and you're also going to go into your leads tab here. You can always say, hey, I want to see things from an open house source. But they'll populate here underneath this tab. And you're going to get a text that says, hey, you've got a new lead. Other questions? So we are approaching our hour mark. I want to just quick do a recap of what we talked about today. We talked about going to your listings tab here and being able to open up and see your actions for your listings. So you can go in, you can see your listings, you can easily go in and be social, share, or see one of your websites here on the quick actions. You can also edit your listings by clicking on the edit button. You can add a seller, you can add additional photos, you can also add additional media, so virtual tours, Matterport tours, YouTube videos, Vimeos. You can add up to 3 different virtual tours. As you scroll down, you can also have your seller add a story that you have to approve, or you can rearrange or add additional photos on the right-hand side. At the top of the screen, you can easily print a flyer, schedule your open houses here. You have the ability to add actions or action plans underneath the Actions tab, add public documents underneath the attachments, and also schedule your seller reports to go out automatically on your behalf, either weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly. You can always change your preferences for notifications and set your default action plans by clicking on your name in the upper right-hand corner, going into your profile, and editing that underneath the Preferences tab. To access your open houses or your open house sign-ins, if you're not the listing agent, you go into listings and then into open houses, and that's where you can see the full list of open houses that are happening in your company. The challenge for all of you moving forward is this. Go in, add some actions to your listings, see what it's like to complete it. Send a seller report to yourself. View a seller report. You cannot break the system. Between now and next Tuesday, I would like you all to commit to spending at least an hour in the system, reviewing the webinars we've done, the quick links in the emails that go out, and really start to work the system, because now we're getting into the tail end of training. And I want to make sure that you can really maximize and leverage the marketing and the action plan section that we're going to go through next week. I want to make sure before we end, are there any other questions? It was a ton of information today on how to manage your listings. I'm going to get Katie and Chris the answer 100% on if we're pushing our open houses out to Zillow. You will have that today. But are there any other questions in the meantime? Awesome. Thank you all so much. You'll get a copy of this recording. It's going to come from the office, so keep your eyes peeled for that email. I will see you next Tuesday at 9 a.m. Pacific time, and I hope everybody has a fabulous Thanksgiving with friends and family. Chris says, for those of you who meet the 1 hour challenge, let her know, and she's going to make it worth your while. Game on, team. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well,